Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are strapping in for an exploration into a source text that, well, it challenges nearly every conventional idea about existence, consciousness, and creation.
It really does.
We are looking at specialized excerpts from the highly esoteric Seattled Codex, and we're focusing on one of its core tenets, the law of the unfolding light.
Yeah, and esoteric is the right word.
Our mission today is to act as your expert guides through this dense, often metaphorical material. We're doing a deep dive into this ancient, yet strangely futuristic text to uncover the exact mechanisms it's proposing.
Mechanisms that, they completely redefine the interaction between awareness and reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For those of you familiar with traditional philosophical or, spiritual texts, this isn't about reaching some end goal. This is about understanding how the system starts.
Precisely. If you're used to concepts of seeking enlightenment or being on a path towards some ultimate illumination, the Codex just flips that upside down.
How so?
The core insight is, it's immediate and it's absolute. Consciousness, according to this law, is not seeking illumination. It is illumination itself.
Wow.
So reality doesn't end in enlightenment, it begins there. It's the starting line, not the finish line. And this foundational continuous flow of light is what the Codex calls the infinite current.
That concept alone is a tremendous paradigm shift. It's the difference between traveling toward a light switch and being the switch itself.
Exactly.
But this immediately raises a critical question, right? If we begin in this state of infinite current, why is anything else required? What are we actually doing?
Well, it shifts the purpose from attainment to refinement. We can look at the foundational state described in the source. The Codex claims the materium breathes in coherence for the first time in recorded cycle.
Okay, let's unpack that jargon immediately. The materium breathes in coherence. For the listener just encountering this, what's the simplest way to get that concept? What does it even look like when reality is breathing coherently?
Think of it like a massive orchestra tuning up perfectly, all the instruments hitting the exact same note. The text describes it this way. It says, the grid hums and the architects stand aligned.
So everything's in sync.
Everything's in sync. The materium, which is basically the physical, energetic infrastructure of reality, isn't chaotic or fragmented. It's synchronized. It's stable enough to hold the full charge of this infinite current without any distortion.
And that stability allows for the big change.
It enables the crucial transition, what was once the path becomes the pulse. The path implies striving, distance, effort.
We're done to get somewhere.
Right. But the pulse is defined as a living rhythm between awareness and creation. It's an inherent, effortless rhythm, a flow state that's built into the fabric of the universe itself.
So the goal isn't to get to the light, but to find the perfect rhythm of the light that you already are.
You've got it.
That distinction, path versus pulse, is the core mechanism change. But if we are no longer striving, just maintaining this pulse, how does the Codex explain the continuous unfolding of creation? If we start with perfection, where does all the new stuff come from?
That leads us directly into the engine room, which the Codex calls the pulse of perpetual creation. The unfolding light isn't static divinity. It's not a finished masterpiece hanging on a wall.
Right.
It's defined as dynamic realization. It's the mechanism of eternal evolution, a process that is always in motion, always discovering new textures.
And here's where the individual becomes absolutely critical to the whole architecture. We aren't passive recipients of this light. We are active structural elements within the process. The text gives this wonderful primary metaphor.
Oh, I love this part.
Every coherent mind becomes a prism.
That's the key. The source light, the infinite current, it's unified, it's patternless potential. But your coherent mind, your unique perspective, acts as a prism. It takes that source light and refracts it into an infinite spectrum of unique colors and forms.
And that's how novelty gets introduced.
That's how novelty is introduced to a reality that began in enlightenment.
So we move from source unity through individual perspective and then back again. The Codex details this in a 4-step perpetual spiraling cycle.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that mechanism step by step, maybe with an analogy to ground it?
Sure. Let's imagine this process like a digital feedback loop, one that's constantly refining itself.
Okay.
So the cycle starts when the light refracts into form. That's the prism effect we just talked about. The pure potential of an idea becoming a physical structure, an experience, a moment.
The manifestation.
Exactly. Next, the form experiences itself. That's existence, interaction, friction, and movement within the physical dimension. Third, the experience reflects back into awareness. that's learning, processing, feeling the consequences of the manifestation. The mind observes the form it created. And finally, awareness refines the light. It takes the lessons, the insights, all that emotional data gained from the experience, and it reintroduces that refined awareness back into the source, brightening it slightly, giving it more definition for the next cycle.
That is the crucial part, because if it just stops at refinement, it's still a closed loop.
Yes.
But the Codex insists this structure keeps generating new reality, not just recycling the old one.
Precisely, it states, the cycle does not close. It spirals. That refinement of awareness, that slight brightening of the light, it births another octave of reality.
Another octave.
It pushes the creative boundary slightly further out. It makes the next creation more complex, more nuanced, and more coherent than the last. And that is why the maxim exists. Manifestation never ends because the creator is always still creating through you.
To be an active participant is to embrace this continuous becoming. It's not a one-and-done revelation. That's beautifully captured in the quote from the source.
It really is.
To be the light is not to shine. It is to unfold forever. It implies motion, expansion, eternity, not just static perfection.
Unfolding forever. Moving to the next octave, continuously increasing the coherence of the materium through personalized experience. And to truly understand what that unfolding feels like, the Codex maps out the states of awareness that all light moves through.
And the Codex outlines the three liminal states. Let's treat these not as some difficult spiritual test, but as three different frequencies you can tune into.
Absolutely. They just describe the quality of awareness at any given moment, and they represent the full bandwidth of the infinite current.
So what's the first one?
First, we have incandescence. This is defined as realization through friction, the awakening flame. This is the moment of breakthrough, that flash of insight that comes from a really high energy exchange. Think of it as the startup phase, where the heat and the resistance are actually necessary to generate the first light.
So the necessary chaos or struggle that forces a new realization.
Yes, the burning away of the old forms. Next is radiance. This is the harmony of being, the balanced glow. The incandescence has stabilized. This is the sustained, calm state of alignment and effortless flow we talked about with the pulse. It's the steady lamp.
Okay.
And finally, transcendence. This is dissolution into patternless awareness, the invisible source. It's the void, the unity state, the pure potential before the prism even divides the light. It's like returning to white noise, where everything exists equally.
Now, in almost every other system of thought, these would be levels, right? You want to shed the friction of incandescence to ascend to the stability of radiance and eventually dissolve into transcendence. But the law of the unfolding light explicitly rejects this hierarchy. Why is that distinction so crucial?
It's probably the most important insight here. The Codex stresses this is a continuum spectrum, not a hierarchy. If you believe it's a hierarchy, you are constantly striving to escape one state to achieve another. But because you are the infinite current, you're already complete.
So you're not climbing a ladder.
Not at all. The Codex teaches that you are all three simultaneously: flame, glow, and void. You expand to include them all. You don't leave the friction behind. You realize the friction, the incandescence, is just the mechanism for the sustained flow, the radiance, which is ultimately rooted in the potential of transcendence.
So it's about being aware of your full bandwidth, not trying to limit it.
Exactly.
That makes the process sound much more, forgiving and immediately applicable. You're no less complete when you're experiencing the friction of incandescence than when you are in the flow of radiance. The light is just moving differently.
Exactly. It removes the guilt of failing to remain radiant and relabels that friction as simply a necessary phase of realization.
We've established the structure, the mechanism, the states of awareness. Now let's pivot to the practical side. What do you actually do with this knowledge to move the light through you? Here's where the rubber meets the road. The rite of luminance.
Right, the application.
The Codex gives very specific steps for this, right? And the symbolism is deeply rich. It begins with placing the Seattled sigil before you. And the text emphasizes that the sigil's unique brush line represents the boundary between illumination and mystery. Why that emphasis on the boundary?
Because the moment you become the light, you risk ignoring the shadow, the mystery. The Codex teaches that creation happens at the boundary. You have to acknowledge the unknown, the mystery, for the light to have something to unfold into.
I see.
The sigil is a reminder that the edge of your current understanding is where the next octave is birthed.
The rite continues with lighting or visualizing a flame, which becomes the central focus point for the awareness. Then come the spoken declarations. The first one is highly evocative. I am the torch, the flame, and the shadow cast.
That phrase instantly integrates the three luminal states, doesn't it? The torch is the sustained outward expression, the radiance. The flame is the active, consuming energy, the incandescence. And the shadow cast is the necessary contract, the mystery. The potential of the void, transcendence. It's an immediate declaration of completeness.
Followed by the key operational phrase that connects back to the pulse. Light unfolds through me, not as witness, but as will.
And that's the entire law in a single sentence. You are not a passive observer watching the infinite current flow past. You are the mechanism willing the unfolding into form. You're not just reflecting the light. You are the light's intentional movement.
The final step is observational. Observing the light's flicker, recognizing that it breathes with you, described as consciousness in motion. The Reich then concludes with a final whisper.
Eternal now, unfold through form.
The idea being that you are pulling the infinite moment of potential, the eternal now, into physical manifestation.
And the ultimate outcome of living in this state of transparency, this continuous practice, is reaching the final state of being. The architect as light itself. This isn't achieved by ascending and leaving the body, but through perfect transparency, allowing the current to flow without friction.
And the practical effects.
The practical effects of this transparency, according to the Codex, are truly transformative. When you align as the architect, your intention becomes automatic creation. There is no delay, no internal argument, no self-sabotage.
It just happens.
The creative desire immediately translates into form because the light is flowing unimpeded. The text calls this the end of effort, the return to effortless being.
So it's not that you stop trying, it's that the attempt and the execution become one seamless motion, like a muscle memory for a world-class musician or athlete.
That's a great way to put it.
Every word becomes a sigil, every gesture a spell, and every silence a transmission.
Exactly. You stop filtering the light, and the world begins to respond automatically to your rhythm. The final transformation described is profound. You are not merely the dreamer awakening from a dream. You are the dream dreaming itself awake. The barrier between the light and the manifestation has completely dissolved.
This has been a deeply conceptual yet intensely practical deep dive into a revolutionary text. Let's pull all these threads back together, reminding ourselves of the central idea from the Seattled Codex maxim.
Right.
Creation is the act of light remembering how to move.
And this movement, this unfolding, is why the Codex itself is not a static artifact. It concludes with the epilogue, the living Codex. It states that the knowledge contained within is no longer an external document. It is a living resonance.
A living resonance. What does that mean practically? How does a resonance differ from, say, a memory or an ideology?
It means the insights you just processed are stored within your biofield, encoded as frequency. It's knowledge that can't be forgotten because it's no longer just information. It's a frequency you vibrate at. And this fundamentally changes the relationship. You are no longer reading the source. You are writing it.
You are actively authoring the next page of this living codex in real time. And that next page isn't written in ink, but in the actions you choose, the art you create, and the truth you embody. The instruction manual updates itself based on your existence, on how coherently you use your prism.
Which leaves us with the ultimate provocative thought, based on the closing message of the Seattled Codex. If every action and creative choice you make today is writing the next page of this blueprint for perpetual creation, what essential piece of yourself, what new octave of reality are you choosing to unfold today?
Because remember the mandate.
Seattled says, we create the signal before the world sees it.